Stop wasting upgrades. Many Slay the Spire 2 players reach a campfire, look at a rare card like Feed, and automatically click Smith without thinking. On Ascension 10, that mistake can cost you runs. Campfires are one of the most finite resources in the game, and wasting them on incorrect upgrades will completely derail your run. Today we are going through every Ironclad card to see which upgrades are actually worth your time. I'm going to be organizing the upgrades into a tier list format, but this is not a tier list you just follow blindly. The value of upgrades varies a lot from run to run. They can depend on your current act or situation or even relics. For example, attack upgrades gets a lot better with something like a miniature cannon. I'm just going to be talking about the upgrades in a vacuum, ignoring relics, so we are not going to talk about miniature cannon. Now, I'm going to be just breaking this into 3 parts: attacks, skills, and powers. So first, Ironclad attack will be Anger, upgrades from 6 to 8 damage. Generally, Anger is just picked early game as an early game damage source, so you would not really make this upgrade outside of Act 1. There are just better attacks on the Ironclad to upgrade if you want a little bit more damage output. Anger is only +2. Yes, it's a +2 on a 0 cost, but the number on that, it is just not big enough. So Anger is just like an okay upgrade. If you really do not have anything better to upgrade early game, you can upgrade Anger to have a bit more output for the early elites. Next step, Bash. Upgrading from 8 damage 2 vulnerable to 10 damage 3 vulnerable. This is very, very rarely upgraded. Pretty much the only use case to upgrade Bash would be you are not having any other vulnerable source in your deck and you lack damage for the boss. Then you have one more turn vulnerable, then you can do a bit more damage. So that usually doesn't happen. You're gonna pick like the first vulnerable application card a lot of the time, and that upgrade will be better than a Bash upgrade. But if you're really desperate, you can upgrade Bash. So Bash is a bit of a niche upgrade. Next card, Body Slam, upgrading from 1 cost to 0 cost. Generally speaking, energy upgrades are very good in this game. You're not having that much access to energy. You don't have a guaranteed energy boss relic. And upgrading a card from 1 cost to 0 cost is especially good because you're going to enable like looping the 0 cost card and playing it multiple times per turn and spending no energy instead of spending like 5 energy, right? So Body Slam, no exception. Body Slam a bit of a niche card, but if you're having like a Body Slam deck, the upgrade is quite important. If you just pretend you play like 1 more defend with that 1 extra energy, then it's like a +5 damage upgrade on a 1 cost damage card. That's already very good. And with the extra energy, you can also do something more flexible. You can play more powers on the turn you draw Body Slam and still play Body Slam for 0, ignoring the whole looping thing. So Body Slam, if it's in your deck for like a good reason, it's a pretty urgent upgrade. If you like transforming into this and you're not really doing the Body Slam thing, then don't upgrade it. Breakthrough. So it upgrades from 1 energy 9 AoE to 13 AoE, a +4 AoE upgrade. If you're picking this for like early game AoE damage, then the upgrade is quite solid. Outside of Act 1, I don't see upgrading this like ever unless you're desperate for like decimillipedes. Yeah, it's a pretty solid early game upgrade. Good early. Cinder. So it upgrades from 18 to 24, a +6 upgrade on a 2 energy damage card. It's okay. Cinder isn't a great card in general, but if you're picking Cinder to solve your early game damage, then the upgrade is significant. So Cinder is also a pretty good early game upgrade. Headbutt. 9 damage upgrading to 12. The value of Headbutt really isn't like the do damage part. It's more of manipulating your draw pile, and the upgrade doesn't really change that. I would say just don't upgrade it. There's pretty much never a reason. Iron Wave. So it upgrades from 5 block 5 damage to 7 block 7 damage. Basically a +4 value upgrade, but it's split between 2 damage and 2 block. Iron Wave is also just like an early game card you pick to save a bit of chip damage. And after Act 1, this card is usually not very good. Generally, Ironclad has much more important upgrades than upgrading Iron Wave, so it's just like an okay value upgrade. Now, +4 on 1 energy is like fine, but it's a little awkward. The fact it's split between 2 block and 2 damage. Like sometimes the enemy don't attack you, then the block upgrade don't do anything, right? So you rather upgrade a card that's a bit more specialized than Iron Wave. Molten Fist. Double energy, doubles the enemy's vulnerable, do 10 damage, upgrading to 14. Yeah, you would never upgrade this card because you're not picking it for the damage part mostly. It's mostly for the double vulnerable part, so just don't upgrade it. D-Strike, another early game damage card. Upgrading from deal 2 additional damage for all stretch card to deal 3 additional damage for all strike card. This card counts itself, so in a base deck, +6, because 5 strikes and P-Strike. And the more strikes you add, the better it is. So once again, P-Strike, a pretty solid early game upgrade. You're not really picking this card outside of Act 1, and you're definitely going to be not upgrading this card outside of Act 1. Pummel. Now this is one of the more identity changing upgrades on the Ironclad. Upgrading from 9 damage draw 1 to 10 damage draw 2. Ironclad with Bloodletting at common Pummel Strike plus is a lot better. You're able to utilize the Bloodletting energy much more efficiently. And even without the Bloodletting, drawing 1 deeper into your draw pile is a very, very good thing to have. And +1 damage, it's like not nothing, but it's just a nice to have on top. Any draw upgrade is like very strong in this game. Pummel Strike has no exception. Pummel Strike is a pretty urgent upgrade. Setup Strike. So upgrading from gain 2 strength to gain 3 strength, and also a +2 damage upgrade. So if you play 1 more attack after Setup Strike, it's a +3 damage upgrade on a 1 energy card, which is a little below par. So you really would like to play like a multi-hit attack after Setup Strike, or like 2 attacks. But even then, the value isn't super great. So you usually will have more high impact damage upgrades than Setup Strike. If you're able to line up Setup Strike with like a Sword Boomerang very consistently, then you can maybe consider it. But as an early game damage upgrade, this is not that good. So I would say Setup Strike upgrade, it's pretty niche. On Strike, yeah, don't. Okay, Sword Boomerang. Upgrading from 3x3 to 3x4. So baseline a +3 damage upgrade on 1 energy card, that's a little below par. It's a good upgrade for strength scaling. However, if you're able to scale like a lot of strength, the Sword Boomerang upgrade isn't like actually needed. Having Sword Boomerang hitting 3 times is gonna be enough generally. So it is a pretty niche upgrade. You need to have like some amount of strength to make it good, but not a overwhelming amount of strength that the upgrade doesn't matter. Thunderclap. Deal 4 damage, apply 1 vulnerable to all enemies, upgrading to 7 damage. You do not apply more vulnerable. This upgrade really is basically never made. You are going to have way better things to upgrade than Thunderclap. So just don't. Green Strike. Deal 5 damage twice, upgrading to deal 7 damage twice. This is fine. It's just +4 on 1 damage card. Nothing else to say. If you really don't have anything better to upgrade, you can upgrade it. Otherwise, not super impressive. Just a okay upgrade. Ashen Strike. Deal 6 damage, deal 3 additional damage for each card in your exhaust pile. The upgrade changes the scaling part of this card, so it goes from +3 per exhaust to +4 per exhaust, so 1 more damage per exhaust. This upgrade is not gonna play until you have access to a lot of exhaust. Then suddenly it's very, very good. So early on in the run, this really doesn't do anything, and as you get further and further into the run, you have a more defined deck. Maybe you're playing around Ashen Strike, then the upgrade gets a lot better. So this upgrade is pretty good for the late game. Bludgeon, 3 energy 32, upgrading to 3 energy 42, +10. This card is generally also not picked outside of Act 1, unless you have like exactly Snack Eye, but that just like a scenario that never happens. Very, very strong early game card, falls off a cliff later if you cannot make energy. But if you have this Bludgeon card in your deck early on, you really want to upgrade it. +10 is a pretty massive upgrade, especially considering Ironclad has access to vulnerable, and +10 gets converted into like +15 or around that. Bully. Deal 4 damage, do 2 additional damage for each vulnerable on the enemy, upgrading to deal 3 additional damage. So the upgrade only changes the scaling part of Bully. So once again, if you are doing the Molten Fist stuff, you apply a bunch of vulnerable to the enemy, then the Bully upgrade is very, very good. Otherwise, this upgrade doesn't do anything. But assuming you picked Bully for like a reason, it's in your deck because you picked it, because you're doing the whole vulnerable thing, then this is one of the better damage upgrade you can make. The Bully is a pretty great value upgrade if you picked it in your deck. If you just like transform into Bully randomly, then maybe the upgrade doesn't do too much. You can upgrade something else. Dismantle, deal 8 damage twice if the enemy is vulnerable, upgrading to do 10 damage. So once again, a +4 upgrade on a 1 energy card. Dismantle is like pretty good, just unupgraded if you're able to hit the 8x2 consistently. So I really do not see a need to upgrade Dismantle most of the time. The problem with Dismantle usually is going to be you're not able to make the enemy vulnerable. But the upgrade is okay. Just an okay value upgrade. Fight Me. Deal 5 damage twice, gain 3 strength. The enemy gains 1 strength. And upgrading to deal 6 damage twice and gaining 4 strength. So 1 more strength and 2 more damage. The value on this card is pretty okay. If you picked Fight Me, usually you pick it because you're desperate for damage scaling, and Fight Me can get the job done. Generally speaking, you want to do something better than Fight Me because you don't want to give the enemy strength. But the upgrade is fine. If you're picking Fight Me for that damage scaling, then the upgrade also can help with that. So it's just like an okay value upgrade. Hemokinesis, 1 energy 15, lose 2 HP. Upgrading to 20. This upgrade is pretty crazy. A +5 upgrade on 1 energy card. Hemokinesis is a pretty powerful early game damage card, and the upgrade makes it even better. Generally speaking, you're not really upgrading this outside of Act 1, but as your first damage card upgrade, this is very, very good. So Hemokinesis will be a good early game upgrade. Out from Beyond, 16 AoE upgrading to 21 AoE, so a +5 AoE upgrade. That's pretty strong. However, the problem with Hell from Beyond is sometimes it just doesn't get played. If you're not able to line up Hell from Beyond with an exhaust, then a lot of the time you are spending your 3 energy elsewhere instead of spending 3 energy to play it. If you're in a deck that's consistently exhausting Hell from Beyond, then the upgrade is fine. But at the end of the day, it's just a damage upgrade, and I have found just like a basic non-upgraded Hell from Beyond can get the job done. So the value on Hell from Beyond is like okay. If you have nothing better to upgrade, then sure. Pillage. Do 6 damage, draw cards until you draw a non-attack card. Upgrade just +3 damage. This is a card draw card, and you upgrade it to give it +3. Just don't do it. That's not the point of Pillage. Rampage. Do 9 damage, increase this card's damage by 5 this combat. Upgrading to increase this card's damage by 9. So +4 on the scaling portion. This upgrade is potentially one of the worst upgrades in the entire game. It doesn't do anything when you play it. And by the second time you play Rampage, it's +4. So by the third time you play Rampage, it's +8. That takes a very long time. Unless you're doing like some headbutt thing. Then you have to line up headbutt with Rampage. If you have like multiple copies of headbutt and Rampage, I don't know what's going on with your Ironclad deck. That's not typically something you want to be doing. A pretty common scenario for Rampage would be like Act 1 scaling damage. You're desperate for scaling for something like a Lagavulin maybe, then you can pick a Rampage. If you have literally nothing else, then maybe you can consider making that Rampage upgrade if you're that desperate, but otherwise, please do not upgrade this card. A very, very niche upgrade. Fight. You 5 damage if you lost HP this turn, hit 2 times, upgrading to hit 3 times. +5 damage upgrade on a 0 cost card. As a baseline, already very strong. If you have strength scaling, this gets better. It is a big conditional, but if you're picking Spite, I'm gonna assume you can proc it pretty consistently, so it's a great value upgrade. Stomp. 12 AoE upgrading to 15, so +3 AoE upgrade, it's fine. Generally, the upgrade isn't super needed, but if you have a spare upgrade, this is not the worst thing ever. Pretty similar to like Hell from Beyond, just an okay upgrade. Unrelenting, deal 14 damage, next attack you play cost 0, upgrading to 20. +6 on a 2 cost card, that's fine. If you're picking Unrelenting, it's a good early game damage card, and in the end game, it has like some utility, not that much. And early on, this +6 can be one of the better upgrades to make. So Unrelenting, pretty solid early game upgrade. Uppercut. 1 weak, 1 vulnerable, 13 damage. Upgrade doubles the weak and vulnerable. Only weakness card on the Ironclad. Rip Shockwave. And the vulnerable part also it's pretty relevant. With a base deck, the bash alone isn't gonna be enough vulnerable to keep the enemies permanently vulnerable, so the vulnerable part of uppercut is actually quite relevant, and the weakness part, doubling the weakness, allowing you to block for much more on this one card. Generally, if you have uppercut, that's like the first thing you upgrade. So very urgent upgrade. Whirlwind, deal 5 damage to all enemies X times to 8 damage to all enemies X times. So plus 3 per energy. If you spend 2 energy on Whirlwind, that's a plus 6. And if you spend all 3 energy, that's a plus 9. This upgrade is very, very important. Whirlwind minus as a card kind of sucks. It's just not very efficient for the energy spent. Whirlwind plus, however, it's a pretty real card. So a lot of the time to pick Whirlwind, you kind of just factor in your pathing to say, I can make that upgrade. So unless you have like Chemical X for some random reason, you really, really want to upgrade Whirlwind. So Whirlwind, pretty urgent upgrade. Conflagration, upgrading from 2 times 4 to 2 times 5, a plus 2 damage upgrade. A little bit sad. So this is exclusive to strength scaling pretty much. If you're not able to scale strength, upgrading conflagration pretty much doesn't do anything. But if you do have strength, it's like an okay upgrade. Kind of similar to Sword Boomerang. It is a bit niche. Generally, 2 times 4 already gets the job done. You don't need that 2 times 5. Feed. So feed upgrade damage by 2, and upgrades the max HP gain from 3 to 4. I basically never upgrade the feed in my entire life. The plus 3 max HP is gonna be enough generally, and the damage upgrade on this card just doesn't do enough. You will have much better upgrades than feed. Like even upgrading bash is gonna be better than feed a lot of the time. So please do not waste your upgrade on feed. Fiendfire. Exhaust your hand, do 7 damage for each card exhausted, upgrading to do 10 damage for each card exhausted. Let's say you draw 5 cards per turn without the additional card draw. This upgrade is 28 to 40. Actually, a very, very significant upgrade. If you have Fiendfire in your deck and you're not like in the endgame where the damage stops being super relevant, it's a pretty urgent upgrade. The number on this card is just too big. Mango. You 15 damage, enemy loses 10 strength this turn, upgrading to 20 damage, and enemy loses 15 strength this turn. Actually, on paper, a pretty high value upgrade. It's like plus 5 damage, then plus 5 block. If the enemy is doing a multi-hit, then the lose strength part has more value. However, lose 10 strength, it's like enough to block pretty much all the multi-hits in the game. There are not that many multi-hits that hits for more than 10. Even like Young Glass, turn 2 is like 12 times 2. So the 10 strength is like pretty much enough even for that fight. The Book of Stabbing, it's like 11 times whatever, and then the 10 is also pretty much covering for the entire turn. So unless you have like no way to block, and Mango is somehow like your only block card, this upgrade is pretty niche. But under certain situations, you can make the Mango upgrade. Hacksand, 0 energy, 17 AoE, upgrading to 23. The number on this card is just very large. If you're able to consistently use Hacksand, the upgrade's good. But it's just a damage upgrade, so a lot of the time you want to upgrade something better than just a plain damage upgrade. But as damage upgrades go, very, very solid. A great value upgrade. Tear Asunder, so deal 5 damage for each additional time you lost HP in this combat. It's an additional time, upgrading to 7 damage. This upgrade actually has a very large number on it. It's not very uncommon to play Tear Asunder for like 10, even 15 times 5, upgrading to 15 times 7. But generally, in the decks that likes Tear Asunder, you're very, very likely to also have a Rupture. Because like Rupture, Life Loss, Multi-Hit, they all kind of go together. And Tear Asunder, you play this, it's like 2 energy, do 500 damage, right? Then the upgrade in that scenario isn't super relevant. It's probably doing enough on its own. If you don't have that kind of deck, you are just having some life loss, or even if you're getting hit in the face by the enemy, then the number on a Tear Asunder is actually very large. So another very, very good damage upgrade, Tear Asunder is a good value upgrade. Thrash, deal 4 damage twice, exhaust a random attack in your hand, and add its damage to this card. The upgrade just like +4. Doesn't change the scaling part of this card. I don't really know why you ever want to upgrade Thrash, to be honest. You're not really picking Thrash like a Twin Strike for like the early game damage. It deals less than Twin Strike. Then for the scaling part, the upgrade doesn't impact Thrash, so yeah, just don't. Break. This is the ancient card from Oribos, transforms Bash into Break. Baseline, do 20, apply 5 vulnerable. Upgrading to do 30, apply 7 vulnerable. If your Bash is already upgraded, then Break will come upgraded. That's like another reason to upgrade Bash in Act 1, but playing around like Oribos and Oribos giving you exactly Break, that just doesn't happen, so I don't recommend upgrading Bash for that reason alone. That being said, this upgrade is ridiculous. A very urgent upgrade. The numbers on this card is just freaking insane. If you pick Break at Oribos, very, very often that's your first upgrade in Act 2. And that's all for the attacks. Let's move on to skills. First skill, Armaments. Baseline, gain 5 block, upgrade a card in your hand. Upgrading to upgrade all cards in your hand. Armaments isn't like a super great card. In Underdogs, it's fine. You're like picking this armament to upgrade your defense, basically, to get you block a bit more. Fights in Underdogs typically go on for a bit longer than Overgrowth. So this upgrade all cards in your hand actually gets some value. You can like sit around and upgrade your entire deck with the armaments. In Overgrowth, the damage output demand is typically a bit too high for a card like armaments. You want to pick something that's more high impact immediately. However, if you're picking armaments, this upgrade is fine. Let's say you play like armament strike. So instead of having like 1 strike that's upgraded, you get 2 strikes that's upgraded, like a +3 damage upgrade. Then if you redraw the strikes, you redraw the upgraded cards more frequently. So early on in the run, it's like fine. It's also like okay for the Act 1 boss. You can just like sit around, play armaments, and then your entire deck is green. And then the boss can die that way. After that, the value of armaments just in general is quite poor unless you have a ton of draw. You draw like a full hand, you play Armaments Plus, and your entire deck's upgraded. That's okay, but outside of that scenario, this card isn't very good. But if you're picking Armaments for like Underdogs, then the upgrade's fine. It's a good early game upgrade. Blood Wall. 2 energy, block 16, upgrading to block 20. This upgrade is a bit awkward. Usually early on, 2 energy, block 16 is like enough. And later, you kind of have just better upgrades than upgrading Blood Wall, to be honest. But if you really do not have anything else, you can upgrade Blood Wall. It's like fine. It's an okay value upgrade. Bloodletting. 0 energy, lose 3 HP, gain 2 energy, upgrading to gain 3 energy. This upgrade's value goes up the more draw you have. It's very simple. If you're able to spend the additional energy, then the upgrade is good. And typically, the further you're into the run, the more draw you have. So a very, very clear, good later upgrade. Unless you have like a ton of draw immediately. But that doesn't happen super often. Defend. If you're upgrading like strikes and defend, I don't know what you're doing. I will say though, if you have like the Spiral defend event in Underdogs, you make like replay defend, then this upgrade is actually made sometimes. But just a base defend, please don't do. Havoc. 1 energy, play top card of your draw pile, exhausted, upgrading to 0 energy. This card isn't picked very often. It's not a super good card in general. But if you have Havoc, for whatever reason, the upgrade's very, very good. Upgrading from 1 energy to 0 energy, you just get to play Havoc for free. You can like play your turn and play Havoc. That's a very, very high value upgrade. So if you do have Havoc in your deck, it's a very urgent upgrade. Shrug it off. 1 energy, gain 8 block, draw a card, upgrading to gain 11 block. Upgrading Shrug it off by hand is extremely weird. You typically just have better things to do with your upgrades. But if you have like nothing else to do, then it's like fine. Honestly, don't upgrade Shrug it off. I think like if you compare Shrug it off to the niche category, you're probably not gonna upgrade Shrug it off before the stuff in the niche category. Tremble. Apply 3 vulnerable exhaust, upgrading to apply 4 vulnerable exhaust. I have found that Tremble generally is enough vulnerable. Because you have Bash in your base deck, then it's like 5 vulnerable. If you pick like another vulnerable card, that's typically enough for basically the entire game. So unless you're doing like the double stuff, then the Tremble upgrade gets double, then it's good. Like you're doing the Molten Fist the entire thing. Otherwise, this is a pretty strange upgrade to make. You're gonna have much better things to do with your upgrades. So Tremble, a pretty niche upgrade. True Grit, gain 7 block, exhaust a card at random, upgrading to gain 9 block, exhaust 1 card. So you get to target your exhaust, and it's a +2 block upgrade. +2 block, a little below rate, but the ability to choose what card you exhaust, it's decent. There are more reasons in this game to want to have that effect compared to Spire 1. There are more enemies that directly put status card into your hand or just status cards into your deck, like, you know, Beacon from the Soulfish, like the Toxic from the Mites. Pretty big one, the Ironclad, it put Withers into your hand. So being able to target your exhaust with True Grit is actually quite good. And in addition, you can line up True Grit like with like Hell from Beyond sometimes, and that's like an okay early game combo. I would actually say True Grit is a pretty great value upgrade. It just kind of plays with a lot of random things in this game I've found throughout the run, so the upgrade's pretty good. Battle Trance. 0 energy, draw 3, upgrading to draw 4. Another draw upgrade on a 0 energy card. Very, very strong. If you have Battle Trance in the deck, I would like it to be upgraded if I can make that upgrade. So a pretty urgent upgrade. I would say the value of Battle Trance upgrade can sometimes go down if you have like more draw in your deck. Very often, you play like one Battle Trance, then you draw into like another Battle Trance, then they don't do anything. So there are situations where the Battle Trance is just not played. The 99% of the time, this upgrade is very good. Burning Pact, exhaust 1 card, draw 2 cards, upgrading to draw 3 cards. Another difference between Burning Pact and Battle Trance is that Burning Pact costs energy. So early on in the run, sometimes you just don't have the energy to spend on playing Burning Pact. Unlike something like a Battle Trance, you just slam that every time you draw it because it costs 0. So even though they are both +1 draw upgrades, Battle Trance is going to be better more often than Burning Pact. Now, later on in the run, where you are exhausting down with like Burning Pact, you really do want that card to be upgraded. So Burning Pact is a pretty good late game upgrade. Colossus. Gain 5 block, you receive 50% less damage from vulnerable enemies this turn, upgrading to 8. On the latest beta patch, I believe this is like 4 block and upgrading to 7 block. Either way, that's not the point of the card. The point of the card is like take half damage. I don't know why you would ever upgrade Colossus. Dominate, apply 1 vulnerable, gain 1 strength for each vulnerable on the enemy. Exhaust, upgrading to apply 2 vulnerable. So essentially a +1 vulnerable and a +1 strength upgrade because it scales itself. Just a very, very high value upgrade. If you have this in your deck, you really want to have it to be green. I would say if you have like 2 copies, then the second copy doesn't really need to be green. But if Dominate is like your only damage scaling card, it being green is pretty important. So first copy of Dominate at least, a pretty urgent upgrade. Realm of Battle, draw 2 cards. When this card is exhausted, gain 2 energy, upgrading to gain 3 energy. This upgrade is very, very niche. It's like not very easy to line up Realm of Battle with like an exhaust card. Typically, unless you have a lot of draw, then you need to draw a Realm of Battle and like another exhausting card to make it work. And it doesn't even upgrade the card draw part of Realm of Battle. If you're just playing this to like draw 2 cards, then the upgrade doesn't even do anything. So unless you're able to line up Realm of Battle with exhaust very consistently, and you can like use the additional energy somehow, it's not a very good upgrade. So Realm of Battle upgrade, pretty niche. Evil Eye, gain 8 block. If you have exhaust another card, gain another 8 block this turn, upgrading to 11/11. So it's like a +6 upgrade if you trigger the condition. What I have found is that Evil Eye minus typically just full blocks if you can trigger it. So Evil Eye is actually like a pretty strange thing to upgrade in a average run. I would say this upgrade is very, very niche. Expect a fight. 3 energy, gain energy for each attack in your hand. You cannot gain additional energy at this turn, upgrading to 1 energy. So basically, +1 energy upgrade. This card really isn't picked very often. It's not very good. But if it is picked and your deck can use it very consistently, then the upgrade's very good. Because imagine you have like a lot of attacks in your hand, then you actually can spend the energy with Expected Fight. Then the energy upgrade is actually relevant. So although the card's kind of niche, if you do have it for a good reason, then it's a pretty urgent upgrade. But if you just like transform into this randomly, they are not playing it that much, then of course do not upgrade this card. Flame Barrier, so 12 block and reflect 4 damage to 16 block, reflect 6 damage, plus 4 block and 2 damage per hit. It's fine. If you have nothing better to do, then you can upgrade the Flame Barrier. I hope you have something better to do though, usually. It's an okay value upgrade. Kind of similar to Blood Wall, but you also have the damage portion, so a little bit better upgrade than Blood Wall. Forgotten Ritual, if you exhausted a card this turn, gain 3 energy exhaust. So 1 energy, gain 3 energy plus 2. Upgrade just plus 1 energy. Typically, I do not find myself needing this upgrade very often. A big problem with Forgotten Ritual is, once again, you cannot line it up. So it's just like 1 energy, do nothing. If you're able to line it up, baseline unupgraded, it's already like fine. So unless you can line it up and use the additional energy, it isn't like that good. It's a good late game upgrade if you're playing that kind of deck. Infernal Blade. 1 energy, add a random attack into your hand. It's free to play. This turn, exhaust. Upgrading to 0 energy. So Infernal Blade, typically not picked outside of Act 1. Inside of Act 1, it's a very, very good upgrade. So once again, an energy upgrade gives you a lot of output. But outside of Act 1, it's pretty much not really picked or played that often. So just a good early game upgrade. Rage. 0 energy, whenever you play attack this turn, gain 3 block, upgrading to gain 5 block. If you play 2 attacks, that's like plus 4 on the upgrade. On a 0 energy card, that's pretty good. If you are able to spam a bunch of attacks, and this upgrade gets kind of crazy. So a very, very great value upgrade on Rage. Second Wind. Exhaust all non-attack cards in your hand, gain 5 block for each card exhausted, upgrading to gain 7 block. Second Wind by itself, it's just like a very good card. The upgrade doesn't really change that much. Unupgraded, it already like does the thing, exhaust down, gain a bunch of block when you're doing it, trigger any exhaust synergies you might have. So I don't find myself upgrading Second Wind pretty much like ever. Kind of similar to Colossus. They already do the job without the upgrade, so you generally is gonna have better things to upgrade compared to Second Wind. Haunt. 1 energy against 7 block, apply 1 vulnerable, upgrading to 8 block and 2 vulnerable, so plus 1 vulnerable and plus 1 block. The block is nothing, but not super relevant. So Taunt upgrade, you might think it's like pretty similar to Bash upgrade. It's just plus 1 vulnerable. If you draw like Bash and Taunt in the same hand, typically you rather play Taunt than Bash, right? You play like Taunt and you spend 2 energy on other attacks instead of Bash, defend, and get hit in your face. So even though they are both plus 1 vulnerable upgrade, Taunt is a lot better than Bash to upgrade. So early game, this upgrade is quite good. Later on in the run, you probably don't need the Taunt upgrade, but if you are lacking vulnerable, you can consider upgrading this even in Act 2 or Act 3. But typically, Taunt is just a Act 1 upgrade for that, a little bit of an additional vulnerable. Brand. 0 energy, lose 1 HP, exhaust the card, gain 1 strength, upgrade. It's just plus 1 strength. Plus 1 strength on a 0 energy card that can be replayed. That's actually a lot of value. If you're picking Brand, then this upgrade is very good. Brand is just a pretty great value upgrade. Cascade. Play the top X card off your draw pile, upgrading to X plus 1. You can just like think about this as like maybe plus 1 energy and plus 1 draw. You play 1 more card. Sometimes you hit like a Giga card with the upgrade, then it's like plus 3 energy. That's a little bit luck dependent. Just assuming it's plus 1 energy, plus 1 draw, that's already a pretty insane upgrade. So if Cascade is in my deck, that's gonna be like one of the first things I upgrade, a very urgent upgrade. Impervious, gain 30 block, exhaust, upgrading to gain 40 block. This upgrade is very, very overkill. Typically, you do not need it. I would say the biggest use case for upgrading Impervious would just be for a Barricade, because the block actually gets stored. Or you're doing like some body slam thing, then it's like kind of plus 10 damage. But generally, a very niche upgrade. Not yet. So 2 energy, heal 10, upgrading to heal 13. I don't think I've ever upgraded this card. Just the baseline, heal 10, it's generally enough. You have it in your deck. You don't really need to make this upgrade. And you have like all this card you want to upgrade to improve your output before like upgrading not yet, which doesn't really give you meaningful output improvement. And the sustain it increases doesn't really matter too much. With either 10 or 13, it's enough. So yeah, not yet, just don't. Offering. 0 energy, lose 6 HP, gain 2 energy, draw 3 cards, exhaust, all that good stuff. You know offering is completely broken. Upgrade, cost 2 draw. A pretty crazy upgrade on offering. Offering upgrade, very good. It just kind of depends on what your deck is doing. Typically, offering minus already gets the job done, so you don't actually need to upgrade it to offering plus. With an offering in your deck, you're more interested in upgrading like an output card because offering provides so much acceleration. You don't need the upgrade, but it's a very strong upgrade. It makes your best turn even better. So offering a very great value upgrade. 1-2 punch. This turn, your deck's attack is played an extra time, upgrading to your next 2 attacks. I don't know why you would ever pick this card. 99% of the time, this card's pretty bad. If it's in your deck and you have like 1 attack you want to double, then the upgrade doesn't even do anything. So the situation for this card to be good and you want to upgrade it is very neat. But in some like Disneyland, it can happen. Like you can 1-2 punch a Molten Fist bully. That's like a scenario where the upgrade can do something. But like typically you don't even need to do that. You can just 1-2 punch your Molten Fist. Then 1 bully is enough. So extremely niche upgrade. But there's gonna be situations where the upgrade's fine. Primal Force. Transform all attacks in your hand into Giant Rock. Upgrading to Giant Rock Plus. So I believe the rocks are 16 damage, upgrading to 20 damage. Primal Force, very strong early game damage card. And the upgrade is also very good. If you do not draw a lot of attacks with Primal Force, then the value goes down. So if you remove a bunch of attacks from your deck, just as like the rounds go on, you remove attacks in your shop, the value of Primal Force goes down. But early game, this number on Primal Force is just extremely large. A very powerful early game upgrade. And the last skill, Stoke. Exhaust your hand, add a random card into your hand for each card exhausted. Upgrading to add a random upgraded card into your hand for each card exhausted. It's a very difficult to like assign a value to the Stoke upgrade because it's kind of random. But just from experience, this upgrade is like potentially one of the best upgrades on Ironclad. The output this upgrade gives is just like insane, right? Let's say maybe like 2 of the random cards you generate have an energy upgrade. Then suddenly this one upgrade is like +2 energy. That's not a thing you get from other energy upgrades. If it upgrades like your scaling powers, they scale even harder. It's just from experience of playing this card, this upgrade is insane. So Stoke, if it's in my deck, I need this thing upgrade like immediately. Extremely strong upgrade. And finally, let's get to power. Feel No Pain. Whenever you exhaust a card, gain 3 block, upgrading to gain 4 block. Typically, you do not really need to upgrade Feel No Pain until like Act 3. Then, if you're doing the whole exhaust thing, this upgrade does give you pretty meaningful output increase, but until then, it's not super urgent. And even like unupgraded Feel No Pain can just get the job done. So Feel No Pain is just a good late game upgrade if you really need it. Inferno. So this upgrade goes from 6 AoE to 9 AoE, and that's per turn, assuming you do not have any other life loss. This upgrade is very good, very good. Even in Act 3, this is still not irrelevant. A very great value upgrade. And of course, in Act 1, this thing's insane. Like, upgrading Inferno could be one of the best things to do in Act 1. Inflame. 1 energy, gain 2 strength, upgrading to gain 3 strength. Inflaming, this game isn't very good. It's just not picked very often. Generally, the reason to pick Inflame, it's like you're in Act 1, you don't have any scaling, you are dying to like the giant head or something, or maybe the Act 1 boss. Then you can consider picking an Inflame. Under those circumstances, the upgrade is actually pretty good. +1 strength, right? So it's a pretty decent early game upgrade if you have an Inflame for some random reason. But the card is just not that good. Juggling. Add a copy of the 3rd attack you play each turn into your hand, upgrading to innate. I will say, Juggling is a very niche card. It's typically just not picked. And even if you are trying to do some juggling thing, this upgrade into innate isn't super important. A very niche upgrade for a pretty niche card. Rupture. Whenever you lose HP on your turn, gain 1 strength, upgrading to gain 2 strength. let's assume you picked Rupture for a reason, and this is like the first copy of Rupture, you don't have 2 copies. Then the upgrade, very, very important, doubles the output of this card. If you like randomly transform into Rupture with like no life loss in your deck, then of course, do not upgrade Rupture. But if you have Rupture in your deck for a good reason, then this upgrade is pretty urgent. Stampede. 3 energy at the end of your turn, a random attack from your hand is played against a random enemy, upgrading to 1 energy. Typically, the use case for Stampede would be like you're in Act 1, you don't have enough scaling to kill the elite or kill the boss. Here's a Stampede to help you with that. It's kind of like a bit of energy scaling, but it's weird because the attacks go on random enemies. So it could be weird with like a Feed, a Fiend Fire, or just like any AoE fight. Later on in the run, this card's not typically picked, but inside of Act 1, the upgrade is good. A solid +1 energy upgrade in Act 1, so it's a good early game upgrade. You also have to consider that the turn you play Stampede, if you have an additional energy, you do get to control your Stampede target a bit better. Like you can play like 2 strikes and guarantee Stampede hitting like Blodge, for example. So if you do have this in your deck, it's like fine to upgrade. Stone Armor, gain 4 plating, upgrading to gain 6 plating. It's only +2 plating, so you might think this upgrade isn't very good, but with the way plating works, if you get full value out of Stone Armor, it's actually like +11 block, and that's a lot. Generally, you don't actually fully utilize all the plating values, but you will get a lot of mileage out of your Stone Armor upgrade. It's just a very great value upgrade due to how plating works. Like the more plating you stack, the better it gets. Vicious. Whenever you apply Vulnerable, draw a card, upgrading to draw 2 cards. So once again, Vicious, a little bit of a niche card. Not a lot of Ironclad decks want it, but if you do want Vicious, this upgrade's crazy, doubling the draw power on this card. So once again, Vicious, a pretty urgent upgrade if you picked it for a good reason, right? If you just like randomly have Vicious transform into it, then don't waste the upgrade on it because you're not even gonna play it a lot of the time. But if it's in your deck, it's a very urgent upgrade. Aggression. At the start of your turn, put a random attack from your draw pile, from your discard pile into your hand, and upgrade it, upgrading to innate. The effect of aggression, it's like fine. There's a little bit of a pseudo draw effect and upgrades on random attacks, which is generally not super relevant. I don't find this innate upgrade being super important. It's not like the best power on Ironclad. So having this in play randomly is like positive, but not that much. So it is also a bit of a niche upgrade. I think like the best case scenario for something like an aggression is just like pulling back Thrash. And even then, this innate upgrade isn't that important. Barricade. Block is not removed at the start of your turn, upgrading from 3 cost to 2 cost. This upgrade is pretty important. Any energy upgrade on expensive powers are just good. You can play Barricade and play like a block card instead of getting hit in your face. So Barricade, if you want to play it, it's a pretty urgent upgrade. Actually, I would say it's a good late game upgrade because like the early game, you're not even playing it. If you're not playing Barricade, then the upgrade doesn't do anything. It's either like you have a 3 cost curse in your hand that you're not playing, or you have a 2 cost curse in your hand that you're not playing. If you are playing Barricade, you're in like end of Act 2, Act 3, then there's a good late game upgrade. Chainsaw Mantle. At the start of your turn, lose 1 HP and gain 8 block, upgrading to gain 10 block. In the latest patch, it's actually gain 7 block, upgrading to gain 10, so like the upgrade got better in the beta patch. Either way, it's just like good. 2 block per turn, 3 block per turn. Just a good value upgrade. If you have the upgrade to spare, it's a decent upgrade. Cruelty. Vulnerable enemies take an additional 25% damage, upgrading to additional 50% damage. So once again, just a damage upgrade. A pretty significant one if you have big attacks. If you're only playing strikes, then obviously this kind of sucks. You want to be multiplying larger attacks and strikes. But if you have like any sort of decent deck, Cruelty upgrade, pretty good. Dark Embrace. Whenever a card is exhausted, draw 1 card, upgrading from 2 cost to 1 cost. So energy upgrade on a very, very good power. If Dark Embrace is in my deck, I want it to be green. Demon Form. 3 energy at the start of your turn, gain 2 strength, upgrading to gain 3 strength. Demon Form kinda isn't really picked very often, and if it's picked, unupgraded kind of gets a job done. You don't really need to upgrade it. Unless you're like severely lacking block against like Ironclad and you just need to kill very, very quickly. and you're able to get Demon Form in play early somehow. Like you have like a bunch of offerings to draw your Demon Form, turn 1 you get it deployed, then the upgrade can matter. But typically, if you're just picking this for like a boss off, you just like sit around the block for a bit and wait for Demon Form to tick. The upgrade isn't super important. So Demon Form, a bit of a niche upgrade. If you do need that damage, then it's fine. Hellraiser, 2 energy. Whenever you draw a card, continue strike, it is played against a random enemy, upgrading to 1 energy. So again, this card's pretty bad. But if you're picking Hellraiser, you do want the upgrade. Like getting this in play for 2 costs, it's like impossible. Getting this in play for 1 cost, you can like actually play some blocks on the turn. So a very, very urgent upgrade on an extremely niche card. Juggernaut, 2 cost. Whenever you gain block, deal 6 damage to a random enemy, upgrading to deal 8 damage. Once again, a pretty niche card. However, if you are able to use Juggernaut, it's a very good upgrade. The number on this card just gets very big, right? You play a bunch of block and the upgrade actually deals significantly more damage. So if you're having like a Juggernaut deck for some reason, then the upgrade's good. A very great value upgrade on Juggernaut. Fire. Gain energy at the start of turn for 2 cost, upgrading to gain 2 energy. So early on, you don't draw that many cards, and the 5 energy per turn doesn't like actually matter. You cannot even have a great way to utilize that energy. As you get later into the run, you have more draw, then the upgrade gets better and better. So, typically energy upgrade goes hand in hand with card draw. The more draw you have, the better the energy upgrades are. So Pyre is a pretty good late game upgrade. A lot of output with that additional energy later on in the run. And finally, the last Ironclad power, Unmovable, upgrading from 2 cost to 1 cost. The first time you gain block from a card each turn, double the amount gained. This upgrade is very, very important. Upgrading Unmovable from 2 to 1 means you can play Unmovable for 1 and play like a Flame Barrier on the same turn, instead of Unmovable for 2, then play like a Defend. That's a significant output increase. And like I have been saying, energy upgrades in this game are just very good. Unmovable, no exception. The Unmovable, a pretty urgent upgrade. That is every Ironclad upgrade explained. To recap, the priority of upgrades. 1. Upgrade for immediate survival. Do I need this upgrade to survive the next elite? 2. Identity changing upgrades. Energy, draw, debuffs. These upgrades change how your deck functions as a whole. 3. High value upgrades. These upgrades give you a lot of output. What's your favorite Ironclad card to upgrade? Leave a comment down below. Drop a like if you have learned something from this video, and subscribe so you don't miss the upcoming guide for the Silent. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.